All right, so I guess what I'm going to want to talk about today is an idea I heard on a podcast, which is this guy is the founder of AngelList. I can't remember his name, but he was talking just a little bit about some of his like philosophy and personal ideas, specifically about about training yourself to be happy. And I like that wording of it, specifically training. It's really, I think, a good way of putting it. But I was asking a friend too the other day if she thought you could train yourself to be happy, and if so, how do you do that? And I think often our first instinct is to say, well, and she gave some answers that I think were pretty good, like be around the right people. Also, I don't know. Well, yeah, I can't remember a lot of what she said, but so often we point to external circumstances to try to be happy, right? But this guy, he's even though he says he doesn't really meditate, he seems to be very, I guess, in tune with kind of the more Buddhist philosophy, which is like striving to find happiness within instead of in any sort of external source. And the idea struck me, these lectures on, it's called The Science of Enlightenment, it's on Audible, that I listened to. It was about just he brought in he talked about a lot of different studies that they've done with experienced meditators, watching their brain and MRI machines and whatnot. And but one thing that he talked about is he had a personal experience where in the hospital he took some medication that really diminished his cognitive ability. Basically made him really, really stupid. And I think to me, like that's something I probably fear the most, is losing. Imagine like getting in a car accident or hitting your head and suddenly like losing your cognitive ability. I think that's a very scary thing. He talked about how through meditation he was able to still be happy because of it. I don't know, it sounds like maybe a silly idea, but also imagine like losing a limb, for example, and this I think ties into like this Buddhist idea that I learned about on this meditation retreat that I did, which is that a lot of Buddhism is trying to connect to the essence of nature, right? And the essence of nature is suffering, impermanence, and selflessness, right? So, but like this idea of impermanence, I don't know, it's interesting. You see like an animal or like a bird or pigeons, right, that are walking around with only one foot, right? Like if a human loses a leg, it's like a psychologically traumatic experience, and it can take like months or years of therapy to adjust, right? But like an animal loses a limb, it's I can't speak for the animal, but they just go on with their life, really, and they don't reminisce or like they don't fall into depression because they're losing a leg. And I think it's because you acknowledge, or rather they live so in the present moment, right? And so that's that essence that you're trying to connect to, is shedding the future and the past so effectively that in the moment, if you've lost cognitive ability, you have nothing to compare it to because you're not thinking about the past. Or if you've lost a limb, you have nothing to compare it to because you're not thinking about the past. And you have nothing to worry about because you're not thinking about the future. And I guess, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about how to apply that more directly in my life, specifically with things that I'm going through right now. Just with like general, like, I don't know, even like social anxiety, or feeling a little out of place, or feeling a little off, or worried about the future. I think those are some powerful lessons that don't need to be applied to extreme cases of losing a limb or like getting hit in the head, but with everyday things, right? to watch yourself and watch your mind as it bases happiness on any sort of external thing, and then focus on the moment to such an extent that it can become interesting and fulfilling. And in every moment there's things that are interesting, the colors, the lights, the sounds, but even in a quiet room there's beauty and interest in the introspection, in the sound and feelings of your body, right? Things that we never take the time to notice. And I think that's I think a really powerful takeaway from mindfulness. And furthermore, it's a practice that can help relieve the suffering that comes from traumatic events. Anyways, that's some things that I've been thinking about a bit. So, all right, talk to you later. Bye.